Before we even go into the consciousness levels, we need to understand what the consciousness even is. Our brains generate the 1,000 trillion synaptic connections responsible for our memory, impulses, desires, fears, dreams, and even little things like making sure everything is working normally without you having to consciously manage it. But what isn't taught mainstream is that our brains are a receiver of information that is processed through our consciousness. The brain and the consciousness work together but aren't exclusively connected. Religion and spirituality calls this the soul, but it's more than that. Because our consciousness vibrates like the atoms that hold this universe together at certain frequencies, we are all made up of the same thing that created the very beginning of the universe. That's why Jesus, Buddha, monks, shamans, the Egyptians, Native Americans, quantum physics, and many other sources educate the fact that we are all literally connected. So now understanding the brain from the perspective of conscious awareness that who you individually are isn't bound to physiology confined within the physical body on this physical form of existence, we can begin to understand how our electromagnetic thoughts interact with and control our electromagnetic bodies in this electromagnetic universe. These different vibrational states are called dimensions, and these dimensions of reality exist mentally and physically, or should I say non-physically for the higher levels. But we're talking about the mental states today. We call them consciousness densities or awareness levels. This isn't just some unimportant spiritual science shit either. When you raise your consciousness, every aspect of your life gets better as you become more in tune with the resonance of the universe. So let's begin with this model I created trying to understand this better. Humans, us, if you still identify as one nowadays, begin consciously and physically on the third dimension, where everything in this vibrational base rate frequency is dense and physical. It takes longer for thought to turn into form. So how do we do that? Making shit happen. In the third dimension, its purpose and your purpose here is to adapt to reality. Do I accept reality as it controlling me or as something I can control? As with everything else in life, this is a simple question, but because we have free will, this makes this difficult when you have the option to ignore your gut feeling and start listening to the people you associate yourself with, and then becoming a victim of everything around you. This consciousness level deals with the physical reality, surviving day to day, seen through the lens of fear and anxiety in the present moment, which is the case for most of the planet, no thanks to the overexposure of fear-based media, the processed food diets we enjoy but our brains and bodies don't, the obnoxious high sugar intake, shit sleep schedules, working at long hour jobs that don't pay shit but degrade mental and physical health, using the little free time we have left and spending the little money we earned on alcohol or weed or drugs or games or excessive binge watching to escape waking life and numb ourselves from pain, believing in what the mainstream media and government tells us to do without questioning it, being negative because everyone else is. I can really go on for as long as people can still make complaints. When you are third dimensionally aware, you are free of conscious thought, the furthest away from being self-aware. Impulse is natural here. This is why, for some people, bad things just always seem to happen out of nowhere, seemingly out of their control. This is also why the poor stays poor and the rich stay rich. The mindset is what allows the corrupt shit to slide and have people primarily blame the system instead of primarily their own actions. Only a minority are an exception to this, so don't @me Black Twitter. In the third dimension, you are asked, do I react to this reality and let my emotions consume me, or do I reflect on this reality and let my logic consume me? A classic fight or flight response. The adversity you deal with third dimensionally is when you let one side of the question pull you down. Whether you react to every little thing in life,
offending people. I think the grievance brigade, victimhood, the idea that hurt feelings are some kind of special currency, I think that needs to come to an end, and America agrees.
or analyze every little thing in life.
Rick, the only connection between your unquestionable intelligence and the sickness destroying your family is that everyone in your family, you included, use intelligence to justify sickness. You seem to alternate between viewing your own mind as an unstoppable force and as an inescapable curse. And I think it's because the only truly unapproachable concept for you is that it's your mind within your control.
You become attached to this specific reality. In this dense conscious awareness, ignorance is the struggle mentally, rejection of the other side of thinking. Scarcity is the struggle physically, and fear is the struggle spiritually or consciously. We're going to use consciousness and the spirit or soul interchangeably. It's the same thing. So to ascend from third dimensional awareness into the fourth, you need to let go of the scarcity mindset. Because nothing lasts forever in this reality, and you need to have a strong foundation for what you consider important and not important. The materialism born from a mass consumer society and the glamorization of celebrities and other stupid shit that doesn't actually matter, that only makes people hate themselves more because of the factors they have no control over, and judge other people as a result of this while still trying to chase temporary things we already know we won't be satisfied with when we get them, makes it really hard to prioritize things in life when you think in this conscious awareness. Money is a tool acquired by mindset, and it controls our time. It's literally all about a perspective switch. You will never have money in abundance with the third dimensional consciousness unless you win the lottery, which is purposely made to make money off people who think this way, or unless you take it by force. Not me though. Second Amendment and castle laws. I call the third dimensional conscious awareness Earth consciousness because these simple problems really only happen here. Oh nice, you did it. You ascended to the fourth dimension. Let me give you a tour of the place. Must have been hard because people can be stupid down there sometimes, but it's all part of the plan. Everyone evolves at their own rate. Now, unlike in Earth consciousness where you're adapting to reality, in the fourth dimension you have awareness of multiple realities. You intuitively know that there's more than what is seen by the physical perception. The purpose of the fourth is to be aware of multiple states of existence so that you can directly take control of your own reality. The question asked here is, do I trust my intuition in the present moment to guide me to where I want to be in the future? Or do I analyze the non-existent future based on information from the past that's no longer relevant? When you are fourth dimensionally aware, you seem to attract more open-minded people into your life. Time feels slower than normal. Coincidences start to occur more regularly and have meaning, called synchronicities. Dreams become more vivid and you feel more rested even on days where you haven't slept a straight 7 to 8 hours. Indigo children are already born with this consciousness level, but it's repressed. That's actually the case with most of our generation because of the things I listed earlier. When you don't really know who you are, you cling on to the thing that most resembles you. Your identity and the materialistic things that don't last forever become the same. So that's where bandwagoning comes from, why people are greedy. Now, like I said in the third dimension, the adversity there was becoming attached to the reality, because when you don't have a strong grounding in your own reality, you feel like you need to seek validation from the external rather than looking internal and knowing what you're worth rather than seeking worth. But when you're fourth dimensionally aware, it's the exact opposite. You become detached to reality because you're overwhelmed by the option of choice. So you don't feel grounded because you don't know where to start. This is why so many people are depressed. They have the conscious awareness of being able to realize that they can take control of their lives, but don't know where to start. Therefore, doing nothing is the better choice, especially when everyone on the internet, mostly through memes and the SJW movement, enable inaction and complacency. Obviously, it's not the best way to live, but it's a way of life for a lot of people. The main problem with our society is that we've been conditioned to be afraid of risk instead of embracing it because it's an inevitable stage of life. It happens to everyone in every stage of life. There's always going to be risk with something. The inherent risk in doing anything is not knowing the other side of something. You know, the grass is greener on the other side. When you make a decision, you can't go back and then make another decision. That's why time travel is so fantasized, because of the idea that you don't make mistakes. That's the thing about risk, because when you do fuck up on something, because that's inevitable due to inexperience, of course, you have to start somewhere. You know what not to do the next time. And that should be empowering. That shouldn't be something to be afraid of. Do I trust internally to my intuitive subconscious knowing, or do I trust externally to the beliefs or labels that shape my incomplete understanding of my reality? The answer is simple. You will know yourself better than anybody else. When you're fourth dimensionally aware, you're free of conformity. You just know what's right or wrong without having to be told it from somebody. Intuition is natural here. In this open conscious awareness, possibility and impossibility is the struggle mentally. Action and inaction is the struggle physically, and doubt and faith is the struggle spiritually. I call this void consciousness because it feels like you're in a limbo, aimless and motionless without guidance. This is where the idea of nihilism and all that comes from, because you have so many choices because you're aware of the fact that there's infinite realities and whatnot, but you don't know where to start. You don't want to make a mistake at all, so you choose to feel safe over moving forward and risk being successful. This inner and outer struggle between the two halves is called duality. Duality is important to exist because that's what creates balance, obviously. We already get this from the idea of the yin and yang, which is talking about the same thing. In terms of the brain, duality happens on the two hemispheres. In terms of conscious awareness, if you want to understand that the best way, I see it as the third dimensional state of awareness is on the left brain, because everything dealing with the reality in the present has to do with the left brain. Exploration, discovery, having to figure out what's presented in front of you within the five senses. But the right side of the brain, that's fourth dimensional thinking, because that has to do with creativity and seeing the bigger picture of reality. It's beyond the five senses, because when you're too left-brained, when you're too logical, anything beyond the five senses doesn't exist to you. It's beyond your conscious awareness.
But it's becoming increasingly obvious. I can deny it no longer. I am small.
But then if you're too right-brained dominant, if you're too creative thinking, it's hard to formulate plans. It's harder to get shit done. It's beyond your conscious awareness. And just like with anything else in life, it's moderation. You have to learn how to merge these two sides of the brain to create unity, to create peace within the mind. But it's also harder to explain spirituality to the left brain dominant side of humanity. And we're in a left brain dominant society, obviously, right? The explosion of technology. You speak more in proverbs and fortune cookie nonsense than objective practical reality, which is what the left brain operates on. So to ascend from a 4th to 5th dimensional awareness, you need to let go of doubt, which is the hardest thing you'll ever do because our society encourages it. All these negative people don't want you to dream because they couldn't when they tried to. So it's better to hold everyone back with you than accept the fact that you failed because you gave up. Learn what made you who you are, your race, your culture, your age, your school, how your family raised you, the friends you chose to be around, what you eat, how you sleep, how your room's organized, etc. You need to focus on the things you have direct control over in life instead of the things that have control over you. That's how the things that cause you suffering cease to affect you in a damaging way. And when you gain control of more things in your life, you start getting more creative because you have more room in your fucking brain to think about things other than what's constantly about to hit you at the next moment. And you have to merge these two ways of thinking. You have to merge your creative thinking and your logical thinking to create unity, which is when you reach the 5th dimensional state of awareness, unity consciousness. And then you mix that creative thinking with your logical planning to manifest your goals into reality. So in other words, you don't give a fuck when you know who you are, and nobody's gonna tell you otherwise. And because of this, you start getting shit done. I'm 18, and understanding this inner duality was how I got out of severe depression last year, which I've had since I was 7. I was always introspective and knew I couldn't kill myself because there was more to life, but I grew up in a home where hearing "I'm proud of you" or "I love you" was as rare as trying to get the ray gun the first try in the mystery box. And I was an introvert too most of my life, so it wasn't easy opening myself up to receiving support and unconditional love from people. I had to master myself so that I wouldn't believe the doubts others projected about themselves. Howdy. Most people aren't at this point yet because it takes patience. But you've made the time, and for that you will reap the long-term benefits. Nice. In the 5th dimension, you are now consciously beyond the point of adapting to reality and simply being aware of more than one reality. You are now a creator of reality in the current state. This is different from the 2 awareness levels from before. Your thoughts directly interact with the larger spectrum of the universe's electromagnetic fields, also called the Akashic Records, and spirituality, allowing you to understand things easier than before, connect the dots between abstract ideas faster, and thoughts rapidly manifest into reality on a consistent basis. Synchronicities happen on a daily basis, and it becomes ridiculously easy formulating plans because doubt is no longer something that holds you back. Intuitive thought becomes subconscious. When you are 5th dimensionally aware, you are free of duality, the clash between the left brain logical thinking and the right brain creative thinking. Both sides have merged in unity, and because this weight has been lifted, you start to feel unconditional love for yourself and the universe. Everything is viewed through the lens of nothing's good or bad. The present moment is really all that matters, which will create the desired future. Every experience is something to learn from, regardless of if it's positive or negative. If it's negative, I know what not to do the next time, and if it's positive, then that's great. And as a result of this awareness, time feels like it has slowed down considerably. I personally raised my consciousness to the 5th on March 23rd, 2018 at 2:46 a.m.
What?!
I just record my experiences and I make notes about this type of stuff. Learning's actually fun when you're doing what you want and not what others tell you to like, which is, I'll save that school topic for another video. This is actually the best time to explain some important facts about consciousness. You can't mentally comprehend the higher states with any kind of weight until you experience it yourself. In spirituality, they're called veils, and that's actually how I'm able to articulate the 4th dimensional awareness because I'm past that point now. So I can look at it and understand how it affected me on an individual level. Then I compared it with research, which confirmed my findings, so I'm proud of that. Some people call this unity consciousness, but I like to call this state freedom consciousness, because that unity of the brain frees you, and my goal is to get everyone on a 5th dimensional state of consciousness. I don't know much about the state yet. When this first happened, it was weird. So I heard a completely different pitch that I've never heard before, and it was in my head. I just hear some nigga now, "Hey, you got tinnitus?" It's like, nah, not at all. I don't really know how long, but long enough for me to like turn my head like a fucking dog. It was as if like we were in a game and some nigga replaced the white noise audio file with harmonious frequency.mp3. But I figure with adversity in the 5th dimension, hate or grief is the struggle mentally, vitality is the struggle physically, and acceptance is the struggle spiritually. So to raise your consciousness from the 5th to the 6th, which is called Christ consciousness because Christ or Christos means light, and this is the level Jesus was at when he was alive. It's also called a super consciousness. You have to love unconditionally. You have to accept reality in all states of existence and just see them as part of a natural order being guided, not controlled, by the universe in resonance and dissonance. You have to be enlightened. Cue Buddha. Now at the 6th dimensional level of awareness, you are a very, 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 very tiny minority on this earth. On a biological level, when you reach ascension, a chemical excreted from the pineal gland called dimethyltryptamine or DMT, which is the physical biochemical form of light, starts flowing naturally down the spine, hitting each cluster of electromagnetic nerves that have their own resonant frequencies, like everything else in the universe. And it affects our mind, body, and spirit directly, which is what we call the chakras. The natural flowing of this chemical circulating inside of you, which is called the kundalini, activates the geometric resonant frequency of the human body itself in the shape of a star tetrahedron called the Merkaba. It's also called Ezekiel's wheel, or the light vehicle, or the light chariot, or the light body, or the rainbow body, or the two spinning Dorito chips. It doesn't really matter what you call it. The point is, it's a star tetrahedron geometrically. These two triangular prisms spin in different directions, creating a vortex of energy, which is in the shape of a torus, which is the same thing that powers everything else in our universe that is living, which is what creates infinite energy, called zero-point energy. You are at the same level as the Ascended Masters, a group of multidimensional beings who have reached this state already, and are reaching higher states at this present moment. Jesus Christ, Buddha, Lord Maitreya, Swami Vivekananda, Count Saint Germain, Saint Guling, Saint Babaji, Low Broomstick. Basically, once you reach this conscious awareness, you go from having intent in the 4th dimension to manifesting in the 5th dimension to creating miracles in the 6th dimension. This is when thought and matter become the same thing, because matter is a denser form of sound, which still vibrates from the atoms that make it up, so literally anything can happen, which is why the Bible records Jesus rubbing sand in the blind to see, walking on water, turning water to wine, etc. The only difference is that now we have a wider imagination from a century of movies, TV shows, games, and stories, so whoever reaches this state will be very creative. Oneness is natural here. Past this point, we can't even use human words to describe these higher dimensions, and since these veils between consciousness act as video game patches, you can't get Christ consciousness and start destroying the world. It doesn't work like that. You wouldn't have made it past the 4th level anyway, still thinking that life should be destroyed, which is why the global elite and other tyrannical powers still think 3rd dimensionally. They're consciously stuck in the idea that people must be controlled for them to feel like they're in power, because there always has to be an imbalance on that level of awareness to feel important. When you have control over the materialist items of that reality, the people who are attached to those materialist things, you effectively have control over them. Do you see a similarity for each dimension, whether that be in mindset or actual realm? Adversity. In every aspect of life, on every level, there must be difficulty, because you cannot grow when everything is given to you. You cannot grow when there isn't any type of resistance in your life. I'm thankful for my childhood because I had to struggle to grow. To move forward, you have to push back. Against your artificial doubts, against the people who gave you those doubts, against the shitty audio inconsistencies in the video, against the things in life that exert free will over you who will convince you that you have no power. You don't have power when you give it to them. Don't give up. Acknowledge the past without dwelling on it, and then use that knowledge to move forward in the present moment, right now.